You were about to scroll past this. Something didn't let you. That's not a coincidence I'm going to oversell to you. But it isn't nothing either. Tonight, the moon moves into the densest shadow it will sit inside for the next 2 years. Not erased, not gone, interrupted. 96% of it will sit in darkness, while a thin, stubborn sliver of light refuses to go out completely. If your week has felt like it had static in it, a plan that wouldn't finish loading, a thought that kept cutting out right before the important part, a conversation that arrived at the wrong time, you weren't imagining that. You were early. The eclipse hadn't peaked yet. It's peaking now. 5 things are about to happen because of it. Not to your sign in some vague, one-size-fits-all sense. To you, specifically, over the next few days, whether you watch the sky tonight or not. I'm walking you through all 5, in order. By the end, you'll understand why your signal has been cutting in and out, and more importantly, what it's clearing space for. Here's what's actually happening, because the astronomy matters more than the drama around it. The full moon tonight sits in Pisces, at almost the exact same degree the sun occupies in Virgo, directly opposite it. That's what makes it a full moon in the first place. Sun and moon facing each other across the zodiac, one lighting the other completely. But tonight, Earth gets in the way. Our planet's shadow falls across the moon and eats into it, umbra first, until close to 96% of the lunar disk sits inside that shadow. It's the deepest partial eclipse we'll see until 2028, close enough to total that a lot of people will call it a blood moon out of habit, even though technically it stops just short. That just short matters more than it sounds like it should. A total eclipse swallows the whole moon and hands you a clean, dramatic before and after. A deep partial like tonight doesn't do that. It leaves a visible edge of light burning inside the dark. Astrologically, that tends to translate into something less like a single plot twist moment and more like a release that happens in stages, which is worth remembering later in this video because it reframes what you should actually expect from the next few days. There's a second layer to tonight that most breakdowns skip, and it's the one actually worth your attention. Both the sun and the moon are being squared by Uranus, sitting in Gemini. A square is an aspect of friction, 2 points 90 degrees apart, pulling in directions that don't resolve on their own. Uranus is the planet most associated with sudden change, disruption, the fact you weren't looking for arriving anyway. Put it in Gemini, the sign of information, conversation, the stories we tell to make sense of things. And you get a very specific flavor of disruption. Not a collapse, not a crisis, but an interruption to the narrative. A signal cutting into the program you thought you were watching. That's this eclipse's real signature. Not everything falls apart. Something breaks in. A piece of information, a sentence, a realization that the story you'd been telling yourself hadn't accounted for. Where you're standing on the planet changes how much of this you actually get to see with your own eyes, though not how much you feel it. The Americas get the clearest, longest view tonight, with the deepest shadow high enough to watch comfortably for hours. Across Europe and Africa, the eclipse is already well underway, as the moon is rising or has barely cleared the horizon, so a lot of it plays out low in the sky, sometimes vanishing below the horizon before it's finished. In a few parts of the world, the moon will already be below the horizon before any of this starts, which means no direct view at all. None of that changes the astrology. A lunar eclipse works on the birth chart, not on your line of sight. You don't have to physically see the moon for its effect to reach you. The same way, you don't have to watch a storm form over the ocean to feel the front move through your city days later. There's one more piece of context worth having, because it changes how big tonight actually is for you. This is the 6th of 7 eclipses along the Virgo-Pisces axis, a pairing that's been running since September 2024. Every eclipse in that stretch has worked the same underlying tension. Virgo's instinct to manage, refine, and improve against Pisces' instinct to release, feel, and let something dissolve. Tonight is close to the end of that particular conversation. The moon won't fall in Pisces again during an eclipse for a long stretch after this one. So if you've had a 2-year story circling a version of how much control do I actually need here and where did effort quietly turn into a substitute for trust, tonight isn't opening that question. It's closing it. A quick, honest note on who this lands hardest on. If you have placements clustered in the early degrees of Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, the 4 mutable signs, the ones built for adapting rather than holding a fixed position, tonight will likely feel less like background noise and more like it's speaking directly to you. Everyone else still feels the season. It's just less personally addressed. Neither version is a lesser experience. Astrologers also track tonight under Saros 138, a family of eclipses whose members repeat roughly every 18 years. Tonight is the 30th eclipse produced by that particular cycle out of 83 total, which is really just a way of saying this pattern has old, recurring roots, and you're catching one specific rerun of it, with more than 50 still to come, long after both of us are gone. That's the frame. Now here are the 5 signs that this is actually landing on you, whether or not you consciously clocked any of what I just explained. The first sign is small, and you've probably already noticed it without naming it. Something you'd gotten quietly good at not looking at directly has stopped cooperating. Everyone edits their own picture a little. Not out of dishonesty, just efficiency. You crop out the detail that complicates the story you're currently living inside because dealing with it isn't urgent yet, and the story works better without it. Most days, that's a perfectly reasonable way to function. Uranus squaring this eclipse doesn't care that it's reasonable. Its whole function is interruption, showing you the thing you'd cropped out at a moment you didn't choose without asking permission first. You'll know this sign because it doesn't feel like a big revelation. It feels almost embarrassingly obvious once it's in front of you. A pattern in a relationship you'd filed under "that's just how they are." A version of a plan you'd quietly known wasn't going to hold. A feeling about a decision you made that you'd been managing rather than examining. It surfaces not because you dug for it, but because something, a comment, a memory, a small coincidence, put it directly in your field of view and left it there. This is where the Pisces side of tonight does its real work. Pisces doesn't hand you clarity through logic. It hands it to you through feeling first, dissolving the edit you'd made before your rational mind gets a vote. You'll feel the shift in your body before you can put it into words, a tightness easing, or a tightness arriving, depending on what the thing was. Here's the part that matters for what you do next. This isn't the universe punishing you for editing the picture in the first place. Editing wasn't the mistake. The mistake, if there was one, was assuming the edit was permanent. Tonight just makes it very hard to keep pretending you didn't see what you've now seen. What you do with that is still entirely up to you. Nothing about an eclipse removes your choice. It just removes your ability to say you didn't know. There's also a quieter version of this sign worth naming. Sometimes what gets uncropped isn't a problem at all. It's something good you'd talked yourself out of noticing because you didn't think you were allowed to want it. If what surfaces tonight is a wish instead of a warning, treat it with the same seriousness. Both are the picture becoming honest again. A question that tends to help, if you're not sure whether something counts as a sign one or not, are you explaining it, or are you just describing it? Explaining sounds like, well, they probably didn't mean it that way, and honestly, it's not that deep, and I might just be overthinking. Describing sounds like, this happened, and it made me feel this. If you catch yourself doing more explaining than describing about the same situation for the third or fourth time this week, that's usually the tell. The picture's already uncropped. You're just still negotiating with yourself about whether you're allowed to look at it. The second sign is more specific, and it's the one people usually message about first. Something gets said, sent, or found. A text, a comment, an offhand remark, a document you weren't looking for, days or weeks before you were supposed to know it. This is Uranus in Gemini doing exactly what it does best. Gemini rules information in its rawest form: the sentence, the message, the fact, before anyone's had time to soften it into something more comfortable. Uranus doesn't wait for good timing. It has never once waited for good timing. So when this square activates, information tends to arrive out of sequence. Before the plan was finalized, before you'd rehearsed how you wanted to feel about it, before the other person meant for you to have it. The instinct here is to treat the early arrival as a problem, to feel like you weren't supposed to have this yet, so you should pretend you don't, or scramble to have a fully formed reaction to something you haven't had time to sit with. Resist that instinct. The information came early because the story around it needed disrupting, not because you did anything wrong by receiving it. You're allowed to say, I need a minute with this, out loud or just to yourself, before you're expected to have a tidy response. Watch too for the reverse version. You might be the one who says something early this week before you meant to. A sentence slips out that you'd been sitting on. If that happens, don't spend the next 3 days apologizing for it. Under this sky, too soon and finally true tend to be the same sentence, just heard from two different sides. It's also worth watching for the version of this that isn't dramatic at all, just useful. A piece of practical information reaching you slightly ahead of schedule, a date moved up, a detail about a plan someone else finalized faster than expected, an answer to a question you hadn't gotten around to asking yet because you assumed you had more time. Under Uranus in Gemini, more time is exactly the assumption that tends to get quietly corrected. If a plan of yours suddenly needs adjusting because new information landed early, treat that as the eclipse doing you a favor, even if it doesn't feel like one in the moment. Early and inconvenient is still better than late and irreversible. The third sign might be the most useful one, because it corrects an expectation a lot of people are walking into tonight with, you expected this to feel bigger than it does, and that's not you being disconnected from what's happening. That's the astronomy working exactly as it should. Total eclipses hit like a clean cut, before and after, unmistakable. This one isn't that. 96% coverage with a visible sliver of light still burning means the release tonight tends to happen the same way. Visible, real, but not complete, in one motion. If you were braced for a dramatic before and after moment, and instead, you're just noticing a series of smaller, quieter shifts. A decision that suddenly feels easier than it did yesterday. A person you've stopped checking your phone for. A version of yourself from a few months ago that you can finally see clearly instead of defending. That's not underwhelm. That's precisely what a deep partial eclipse tends to produce astrologically. Staged release instead of a single dramatic turn. This matters because a lot of content built around tonight is going to promise a single, unmistakable, life-rearranging moment, the everything changes tonight framing. It's an easy hook to write. It's just not accurate to what this particular eclipse actually does, and promising it to you would be exactly the kind of thing this video is trying not to do. What's more honest, and frankly more useful, is this. Pay attention over the next several days, not just tonight. The releases connected to this eclipse tend to arrive in a sequence, a small realization today, a conversation in 3 days that adds context, a decision in a week and a half that finally makes sense because of both. If you try to force a single climactic moment out of tonight because that's what you were told to expect, you'll likely miss the quieter, cumulative version that's actually unfolding. The one that tends to hold up better anyway, because nothing about it depended on adrenaline to feel real. Give yourself permission to feel calm about something you were braced to feel shaken by. Calm isn't the absence of the eclipse working. Sometimes it's the clearest sign that it is. There's a specific trap worth naming here, comparing your reaction to someone else's. You'll see people online performing a huge dramatic eclipse story tonight, and it can make a quiet, undramatic shift feel like it doesn't count. It counts. A 96% eclipse doesn't owe anyone 100% of a reaction. If you're the kind of person who's genuinely disappointed that this one feels smaller, here's a reframe that tends to help. Dramatic endings are memorable, but staged ones are usually the ones that actually stick. A release that arrives all at once can just as easily reverse itself once the adrenaline wears off. You patch things back together out of momentum, or the old habit creeps back in because nothing structural actually changed underneath the big feeling. A release that arrives in pieces, over days, gives each piece time to actually hold. Slower isn't a lesser version of this eclipse. For a partial one, it's the only honest version there was ever going to be. The fourth sign asks you to look a little further back than this week, back roughly 2 years, to the late summer of 2024. Tonight is close to the last stop on that particular loop. The moon won't return to Pisces for an eclipse again for a long stretch after this, which means whatever this 2-year thread has been asking you doesn't get another lap. Not because the universe is imposing a deadline on you, nothing here works or should work that way, but because the specific astrological conversation that's been reopening this question keeps closing. You'll feel this sign as a strange, specific sense of, oh, that's actually over, about something you didn't realize was still technically open. Not a fight you're winning, more like a rerun. You finally stop half watching because you already know how it ends and you no longer need to check. If you want to work with this deliberately, rather than just noticing it happen, think back honestly to what was circling in your life around September 2024. Ask what part of it is still asking something of you today. Whatever comes up first is very likely the thread tonight is closing. You don't need a ritual to release it. You mostly need to notice it's already loosening its grip and stop holding on to your end of it out of habit. For some people, this shows up as relief. For others, it shows up as a small, unexpected grief. Even endings you wanted can leave a mark on their way out. Both reactions are the same sign wearing different clothes. Neither one needs fixing. There's no need to manufacture a symbolic gesture to mark this, but if you want one, keep it small and honest rather than performative. Write one sentence describing what started around that time 2 years ago, and one sentence describing where it actually stands today. Read both back. Most people find the gap between those 2 sentences is bigger than they expected. Proof in their own handwriting that the loop already ran its course, even if nobody sent an announcement. The 5th sign is the one people trust the least because it doesn't match the mood the internet has told them to expect from eclipse season. An unexplained, unearned calm about something that by every reasonable measure should still be stressing you out. There's a real astronomical reason for this, and it's happening just after tonight, not during it. 4 days from now, Jupiter and Saturn, expansion and structure, the planet that says yes and the planet that says not yet, move into an exact supportive angle with each other. That aspect doesn't erase tonight's disruption. It stabilizes what tonight loosens. Think of it less like a rescue and more like scaffolding arriving right after a wall comes down, before you've even had time to worry about what's exposed. Don't talk yourself out of it. There's a specific kind of person who, faced with unexpected calm, immediately starts hunting for the catch, assuming the other shoe has to drop because things aren't supposed to be this manageable. That instinct is worth naming so you can set it down. The calm isn't naive, it's structural. It's 2 real planetary bodies moving into a supportive angle days after a disruptive one, and your nervous system picking up on a stability that's genuinely there, not one you're imagining because you'd rather not deal with reality. Let the ease be information, not a warning sign. If something feels lighter than you expected it to, that's usually just the truth about where you're actually standing, not a delay tactic before something worse. People sometimes ask why a chart would hand out calm right after handing out disruption, as if the 2 should cancel each other out instead of cooperating. They don't cancel out. They're doing 2 different jobs back to back. One clears the static, the other steadies what's left standing once the static is gone. You don't get the second without having gone through the first. If tonight felt like the harder half of that pairing, that's not a separate, unluckier event. It's the first half of the same one, and the steadier half is already only days away. So here's where all 5 of these actually meet. Tonight didn't happen to convince you of anything. It's not proof of fate, it's not a test you can fail, and nothing about it removes your ability to choose what happens next. If anything, it clears enough static that your next choice gets to be made with more information than you had a week ago, not less. That's the real shift, if you're looking for one concrete thing to walk away with. Not everything is different now, but you can see more clearly than you could before. And clarity is the actual raw material every good decision from here forward gets built out of. None of this requires you to do anything dramatic tonight. You don't need a ritual, a journal you'll abandon in a week, or a public declaration about who you're becoming. You just need to be honest about what you noticed and let yourself act on it at your own pace, not the internet's. So if you noticed even one of these 5 tonight, sit with it instead of rushing to resolve it before bed. Let the picture stay a little uncropped. Let the early message stay unanswered for 1 more hour if you need it. Let the quiet version of the release be enough, without needing to perform a bigger one for anyone watching. Let the 2-year thread finish closing without a ceremony. And let the calm be real, even if you can't fully explain it yet. If you're someone who likes to track this kind of thing, even loosely, this is a good week to keep a short running note. 3 or 4 lines a day. Nothing elaborate. What you noticed. What surfaced. Whether the calm held. Not because you need proof the eclipse was real, because in 6 months, when a completely different transit is making headlines, you'll want to remember what this particular week actually taught you, in your own words, instead of a stranger's interpretation of your chart. And if none of the 5 signs land tonight, that's genuinely fine too. Not everyone feels every eclipse the same way, and some of the most real shifts show up as an absence rather than a presence. A fight that simply doesn't happen, a spiral that doesn't start, a version of you from 6 months ago that would have reacted badly to something you just handled without even noticing you'd handled it well. Quiet nights count. You don't need a story to tell about tonight for it to have done something useful underneath the surface. Whatever you noticed or didn't, you get to carry it forward at your own pace, on your own terms, answering to no one's timeline but yours. That's not a consolation prize version of astrology. That's the actual point of paying attention to any of this in the first place. Not to be told what happens to you, but to notice a little earlier than you otherwise would have what's already happening, so you get to meet it on your feet instead of getting caught flat. The interruption already did its part tonight. What you do with the clearer signal from here is entirely yours to decide.